Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Rachel Williams begins now.
Good evening, everyone. A drink-driving Army veteran who killed a father and injured 4 others in a high-speed crash will spend the next 3.5 years behind bars. The Launceston Supreme Court today heard Dwayne Albert Cashman had been drinking until the early hours of the morning before he got behind the wheel in December 2016.
The last glimpse of freedom before Dwayne Cashman's 3.5 years in prison. This was the confronting aftermath of his crime. Chunks of twisted metal on the road, 2 cars mangled on the side of the Midland Highway, and the lives of 2 families changed forever. Today, supporters were waiting as he arrived to learn his fate. In court, Justice Robert Pearce described the crash as a disaster waiting to happen. On December 18, Cashman had been drinking with a friend in Hobart until 2 a.m. After just 4 hours sleep, he got behind the wheel to drive to Wynyard. Approaching Perth, his Ford Fairlane reached speeds of up to 148 kilometres an hour. He went to change a CD but lost control of the car, slamming into a Kia van carrying a family of 6. The impact killed 53-year-old David Smith and left 4 others injured. He later gave police a blood alcohol reading of 0.069. The judge described the lethal mix of speed, alcohol and inattention as posing a massive risk to others. Justice Robert Pearce acknowledged Cashman's service in peacekeeping operations in Rwanda and Timor-Leste. He described the crash as a tragedy from every perspective, but when it came to sentencing, he said nothing would compensate for the death of Mr. Smith. Cashman pleaded guilty to 1 count of dangerous driving causing death and 4 counts of causing grievous bodily harm. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Total fire bans have been declared for all southern municipalities tomorrow and Saturday, with conditions expected to be the worst this season. Authorities say extreme heat conditions forecast for the next 2 days could spark flames, which could spread rapidly and uncontrollably. 6 bushfires continue to burn out of control, and a further 22 blazes are being patrolled across the state. Residents are being urged to remain vigilant and ensure their bushfire survival plan is in place. A Chigwell man is in police custody tonight following a crash on Hobart's Davey Street this afternoon. The man was allegedly driving a stolen car and police were chasing him moments before he collided with 2 vehicles.
A busy Davey Street quickly became the subject of a serious police incident. At around 1 o'clock this afternoon, a man who was on the run and allegedly driving a stolen car smashed into 2 vehicles.
Attempted to avoid police in the Sandy Bay area for a few minutes. It was then seen heading along Mole Street and turning into Davey Street against the flow of traffic.
A sighting of the man driving this morning around Kingston prompted police to give chase. For more than an hour, he led authorities around Hobart's suburbs, causing major traffic delays.
A number of police observation points have been set up. However, the car managed to avoid police attempts to deploy road spikes.
The Westpac rescue helicopter was sent up and a number of ground crews deployed to track the man down.
And he's been wanted by police for crimes committed across the Southern District in recent weeks, including obviously those offences being committed today.
A driver of one of the affected vehicles and police managed to catch the alleged offender on Davey Street after he'd fled on foot. He will face court this evening or tomorrow. No one was seriously injured, but anyone with information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers. Louise, HEDGER, 7 Tasmania News.
In a long-awaited announcement, the government has ditched its 2% public sector wages cap following months of mass protests from staff. But its new proposal comes with serious compromises. Unions now left to decide whether the backflip will be enough to reach agreement.
The moment unions were left in a state of disbelief. Altogether this morning, when a new wages offer from the government came out of the blue.
We are prepared to revise upwards the state wages policy, subject to the unions and their members agreeing to a range of efficiencies and productivity measures.
For months, public sector staff have held mass protests for better pay and conditions, the government refusing to budge on its 2% wages cap. But today they've offered to lift the cap to a 2% increase in the first year, 2.25 in the second and 2.5 in the third.
A progression to a midpoint between the union's position and the state's, we think that that is fair and reasonable. Importantly, as I've said consistently, our wages policy has to be affordable.
But if they take that deal, unions would also be signing staff up for a removal of some public holidays, including Easter Tuesday and regional half-day holidays. And no overtime payments for some part-time staff who work more than their hours, and scrapping waiting time payments.
The AU executive had last night endorsed escalating industrial action commencing last week. We understand that negotiations are a fluid process, but this is just lacking respect.
The health system is in absolute crisis, so to have that at a time while the government is treating its health workforce like this is totally unacceptable.
We welcome the backflip by Treasurer GUTWEIN on lifting the 2% wages cap, but at the same time he has done that, he is eroding working conditions.
Unions now left to decide just what their next step will look like. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government has released Tasmania's first dedicated trade strategy, saying the 4-year, $12.5 million investment will better promote Tasmanian products to the global market.
We need to remember our biggest competitors are typically other states, and they are very active in markets. They have larger budgets. We need to manage our budget well and make sure that we are getting good bang for buck on our investments.
Tasmanian grain trader AGRICO says with exports to Korea currently booming, the trade strategy will also allow it to capitalise on the Japanese market.
In terms of being able to move into these markets, particularly with trade missions and strategies in place now, we're going to certainly have a big presence in Asia. And so therefore it just allows us to manoeuvre ourselves into those markets without having to sort of greenfield it, so to speak. So it's going to be a big increase in terms of export.
The government says its trade strategy plan is to grow exports to $15 billion per year by 2050. Following a week of political chaos, the government has been urged to not waste any time when Parliament finally returns late next month. The government was forced to push back its original schedule while it waits for the arrival of a replacement for former MP Reen Hitting. The delay bringing about a reset, meaning some unfinished legislation would need to be re-established for politicians to start up debate once again, including potentially nation-leading transgender reform.
We think all Tasmanians who pay our wages, let's face it, want to see us back at work, cooperating to the greatest extent possible, as soon as possible.
Holding the Premier to his commitment to get things back on track when Parliament kicks off on March 19. Tasmania's new Children's Commissioner has spoken out about her plans for our state as she begins to settle into her new job. It's a role that's been plagued with high staff turnover, but she says she's determined to see out her term.
This is Leanne McLean, the person now in charge of overseeing the well-being of Tasmania's young people, appointed to the role of Children's Commissioner late last year.
One of the clearest things you hear from young people whenever you speak to them is people just need to ask us what we think. And it's pretty surprising how often they're not asked.
Her resume includes working with vulnerable children and, most recently, Education Minister Jeremy Rockliff's Chief of Staff, causing controversy following her appointment.
It's my job now to prove that I am impartial, that I am independent, that I will undertake my functions in accordance with the Act as they are written.
The appointment was made by a panel with the expertise and the skill set to make a decision based on who was the best person for the job.
It's a job that's seen a number of her predecessors walk out, fed up before their term was over. For some, relationships with the government had deteriorated.
I will be an extremely strong advocate for the needs of children and young people. I will not be shy in making my views known to government on any particular issue.
But now she says she's ready to get on with the job.
Making sure young people, no matter where they are, feel loved and safe, have access to the material basics that they need to thrive, and are heard. They're probably the three most important things for me.
Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
Harvesting will soon begin at Bothwell, where different hemp varieties are being trialled to see which one is most efficient. The protein is making its mark on the world stage, and the industry is excited about the potential of Tasmanian products hitting the global mainstream.
It's a small bud, but this little piece of greenery is fast becoming known for its benefits.
Hemp seed itself is 1/3 protein, high quality, complete protein.
Hemp crops are being grown here at Bothwell as part of a major field trial.
As far as we're aware, this is the world's largest hemp trial.
We've got 96 hectares of 20 different varieties from France, China and Canada.
In 2017, it became legal to use hemp as a food product in Australia and New Zealand. It's increasingly used in products such as milk, bread and even donuts.
Annually, globally, we're looking at around 26-27% growth rate in this sector.
Here in Tasmania, we have very favourable growing conditions. It's grown elsewhere in the state, but this trial is hoping to determine which variety works best.
Is really to find out what's going to be the best product to move forward with. We're always looking for different crop options, so yeah, we always support these sort of things. Yeah, poppies have been good in the past, but they're losing their shine, so we really like to find another crop to fit in our rotation.
Previous stigma surrounding hemp, including the misconception the product can be smoked and result in a high, is said to be fading away.
It's illogical and it's anti-scientific to have that kind of stigma or attitude about it.
These crops were sown here in Bothwell in November and December last year. They'll be harvested next month, where the process will then begin to determine which variety has fared best in terms of yield and ultimately taste.
Global trends show that really hemp is going to be an extremely important source of food going forward.
Louise HEDGER, 7 Tasmania News.
A developer who illegally demolished a heritage-listed home has withdrawn an appeal against a $225,000 fine. Darko Krajinovic pleaded guilty to levelling the 1880s Mount Stewart home in February 2017. However, he later filed an appeal against his sentence. In a statement today, the City of Hobart said it was pleased the matter had been dropped and would continue pursuing legal costs. The owners of the Lonavale timber mill damaged by last month's fires say it's unlikely the site will reopen until mid-April. Ta'an says it's met with workers, unions and the government to find alternative jobs for staff, including placement options at its Smithton and Hewen mill sites. The company says it's continued to pay all permanent employees. TASPORTS has dropped anchor at its new $8 million offices in Launceston. The authority has relocated staff from Hobart to the former 1860s-era gasworks precinct.
We're going to have around 45 people working within the facility, which I think is great for TASPORTS and great for Launceston.
The new headquarters will eventually house vessel traffic and security operations. With the Australian tourism industry's Night of Nights now just one sleep away, several lucky students have spent today helping Tasmania's best chefs in preparing a menu fit for a king. 840 people will attend the Qantas Australian Tourism Awards at Launceston's Cataract Gorge tomorrow night.
The stage is set and the menu now finalised, thanks to a little extra help from 10 of the state's budding young chefs.
We're going to have the cream of the Australian tourism industry here tomorrow evening, and for us to be able to do the main course for over 800 guests is exciting, and there's a lot of nervous excitement around the building.
For Newstead College student Maxie Smith, being selected to work with the state's best is a dream come true. Despite the pressure, the Year 11 student says the team of 40 is ready.
I'm very nervous, but I feel like that it's not going to be too much of a struggle for any of us and that we will do very well.
Preparing the 3-course meal, including 200 kilograms of beef, has been a monumental task.
Cape Grim ginseng rubbed beef brisket on a corn puree with pickled vegetables, and then we've got confit chicken on a bread sauce with watercress and hazelnut salad.
The next hurdle, transporting it all from the country club to the temporary setup at the Gorge.
Logistically, we approach it in 4 stages of 200, so we're on 4 kitchens, 4 groups serving 200 people at a time, and we approach it like that. It's very military-like almost in its execution. But look, we can't wait, and there's a lot of nervous energy and electricity around the building today.
Richmond great Matthew Richardson will be among those hosting the awards. Just one of many the Tassie team hopes to impress.
How relieved will you feel once it's all pulled off?
I did say to our general manager up here, Ross, that once that main course has been cleared, probably the most relieved man after him in the room will be me.
Jessie Gilmour, 7 Tasmania News.
Traditional dancing, music and of course food are all on the menu for this weekend's 26th Estia Street Festival. Preparations were in full swing today for the annual celebration of Greek culture. More than 15,000 people are expected to attend the Hobart event when it kicks off on Sunday. Getting ready to taste some much-loved Greek treats.
Probably the most recognised is char-grilled octopus on the barbecue with a shot of ouzo. You can't get better than that. And of course we've got gyros and lamb soufflaka, dolmades, we've got the lot.
The festival will take over Federal Street at North Hobart from 11 a.m.
Only a week after the Smithton Football Club went into recess, another club in the northwest is on the verge of following suit. The Natone Magpies are about to hold their own crisis meeting as it struggles to field a senior side. For more, we're joined by Tom Johnson at Natone. And Tom, how bad is the situation?
Well, it's not looking good at all, Tom. This club's been around since the 1920s, but there are very real fears that Natone's last game has been played. Less than a dozen players have been rocking up to training this year, and even tonight, after a call to arms was put out on the Facebook page and on radio, we've had only 10 senior players rock up, which is, of course, nowhere near enough to field a senior side. Now, this should ring alarm bells for AFL Tasmania, which is here tonight represented. This is an issue which is across the entire northwest. Clearly we saw this in Smithton last week, and other clubs are struggling as well. So they need to work out a way of keeping clubs alive without letting all this history go to waste and have these clubs fold or even go into recess. It's a terrible outcome. We caught up with the Natone Club's president Tim Weller a short time ago. Well, let's take a listen. So Tim, thanks for joining us. What's caused the drop-off in players this year for the Natone Footy Club?
A lot of our players have sort of retired and family commitments, and time travel and stuff like that makes it real hard for some of them. We're 15 minutes from the coast and 10, 15k, so I mean it takes a bit of time for some of them to get here. Other than that, it's just there hasn't been any mass walkout or anything like that. We've lost 5 players for put in for clearances, so which is not too bad. So other than that, it's just people are not turning up.
It'd sure be a shame to see it go, though. What does this club mean to some of those players who have played here for decades?
It'd mean a fair bit, especially around the community. Like Saturday nights on the home games, we do counter meals and that, and the community comes around. So a lot of them will really miss it, that's for sure. And a lot of the players and even supporters and opposition clubs often stay around. So it's be missed by everybody, I reckon.
Thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully a good result tonight.
No worries, yeah, so.
Now, this club plays in one of the most sparsely populated regions in the league, the Darwin Football Association, which has teams from Queenstown right across to South Burnie. So tonight's meeting should be telling not only for leagues in the northwest, but of course for the Natone Football Club and its proud future. Back to you, Tom.
The 2019 NPL season has hit a hurdle before it's even begun, with Saturday's triple header cancelled due to predicted temperatures. It gives new club Riverside some extra time to fine-tune as they prepare to try and match it with the state's best sides. The competition newcomers were set to take on Clarence this Saturday in their first taste of NPL action.
We're not scared of it and we're not afraid to play those big clubs. We see it as an opportunity.
But with temperatures around Hobart set to soar into the high 30s, Football Tasmania has postponed Saturday's triple header at KG5, likely to reschedule it to Easter Monday. And following their most intense pre-season to date, Riverside will need to wait a little longer to see just where they stand in the NPL pecking order.
I'm sure the first few times in particular are going to be really tough, especially for the younger kids at the club, to be able to learn about that step up in level, but it's a challenge that we're all looking forward to.
It's all systems go for the new NBL 1 season, however, with the Launceston Tornadoes partnering with Country Club Tasmania as a new major sponsor for 2019.
Significant help for us in terms of continuing to grow the organisation and importantly coming on as a game night sponsor, being able to get in there behind that north-south rivalry when we hit Hobart, those games across the north and the south of the state.
The side season tips off on March 30 against the Southern Sabres at Elfin Stadium ahead of their highly anticipated clash with the New Look Hobart Huskies in June. to cycling, and the Tasmanians have a big mountain to climb following stage 4 of the UAE Tour in the Middle East, with Richie Port sitting in 72nd spot, more than 15 minutes behind the leader, while Will Clark's hopes took another hit, dropping back into 104th.
Good evening. Fine and partly cloudy weather today. Hobart reached 23 degrees, Launceston 26, Burnie 22 and Devonport 24. The high, though, was 27 on Flinders Island, with most temperatures above average. 26 today on King Island, Strawn, Friendly Beaches and Grove 25, Smithton and Ouse 24, St Helens and Lyowini a high of 21. Now, high-level cloud moved across from the northwest today, some low cloud over the north and upper east. Cloud also over Western Victoria, which linked to our cloud, a patch of mid to high cloud over New South Wales, thunderstorm producing cloud over the north of the country. Tomorrow a high sits over the Tasman Sea, a cold front brushes the coast of WA with a trough extending through central Western Australia. The winds east to northeasterly at 5 to 20 knots, but up to 25 knots over the southeast, lighter winds inland and over the southwest. We do have a fire weather warning from the Midlands, Upper Derwent Valley and the southeast. A very high fire danger exists for those districts and will probably last through to Sunday before a cold front passes our way. A few March records might be broken early in the month as far as hot temperatures go. Here's the forecast for Hobart tomorrow. Very hot and sunny, 35 the top, 35 also for Huonville and a top of 36 for Campania. Hot, sunny, no rain in sight. 32 for Launceston, hot and sunny. 26 the top for Devonport, partly cloudy. A humid day for Georgetown and 28 degrees. Meanwhile, for Burnie, humid and partly cloudy, 26 the maximum, 29 for Strawn, a sunny day, and a humid day for Wynyard, 26. And in the east tomorrow, St Helens, humid and partly cloudy, 27, up to 32 for Swansea. A windy day for Port Arthur later in the day, 28 degrees the maximum. There's the UV, and that's very high right across the state tomorrow. On Saturday, sunny again and very warm to hot with fresh northwesterly winds. Fine and humid on Sunday with a light shower predicted and also preceding the next front. And on Monday, light showers over the north and west, clearing early, otherwise fine. Partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow, very hot and sunny and 40 in Adelaide, hot as well in Melbourne, a top there of 37 degrees, fine in Canberra and Sydney, but a shower or two in Brisbane. Partly cloudy at the moment, 22 in Hobart, Launceston 24 and partly cloudy in Devonport and 22 degrees. As summer draws to a close, most of Australia has experienced its warmest summer since 1982-83, with lots of records being set and also a lot of records being set for low rainfall as well. We've got another hot blast to start off autumn, Rachel, but then another cold front through on Sunday. So keep an eye out for those warnings. They're at very high fire danger now, but could get to extreme or severe.
Yeah, everyone better take care. Thank you for that, Murph. Well, that's all your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.